Bienvenue à notre panel de discussion et à notre événement de questions et de réponses du mois de sensibilisation à la maladie d'Alzheimer. Merci à tous, tout le monde qui nous joint aujourd'hui. Welcome to our Alzheimer Awareness Month discussion panel and Q&A event. Thank you to everyone for joining us. My name is Isabelle Boulay, and I am a First Link coordinator at the Alzheimer's Society of New Brunswick. Je m'appelle Isabelle Boulay, je suis coordinatrice premier lien à la Société d'Alzheimer du Nouveau-Brunswick. Je suis accompagnée aujourd'hui d'invités très spéciaux que je vais vous présenter dans l'instant. Pour parler de les façons d'obtenir de l'aide dans votre parcours avec un trouble neurocognitif. I am joined today with some very special guests that I will introduce in a few moments to talk about how to get help in your journey with dementia. Because January is Alzheimer Awareness Month, we thought this would be a great opportunity to talk about how to get help. A diagnosis with dementia is not easy, but connecting with services, learning information can make a big difference in eliminating some uncertainties and some unknowns. Étant donné que janvier est le mois de sensibilisation à la maladie d'Alzheimer, nous avons pensé que ce serait une excellente occasion de parler des façons d'obtenir de l'aide. Avoir un diagnostic d'un trouble neurocognitif, c'est pas facile, mais se connecter avec des services, obtenir des informations sur la maladie peut faire une grande différence en éliminant des incertitudes et des inconnus. Donc, we're going to start with introducing our special guests. Donc, on va commencer à introduire nos invités spéciaux. Let's start with Jodi Lee White. She is a lawyer. Elle est une avocate. Après un début de carrière dans un cabinet privé, Jodi a pris plusieurs rôles au cœur de l'Association professionnelle de droit. En 2014, Jodi a retourné à ses intérêts originaux, la planification successorale et créé des bureaux d'avocats mobiles dédiés à la préparation des testaments, procuration et des directives de soins de santé. Jodi a participé à nombreuses activités au sein de l'association du barreau canadien et à l'admission au barreau. Elle a aussi été membre du groupe d'action sur la procuration du Nouveau-Brunswick, un groupe interdisciplinaire qui pousse avec succès pour une nouvelle législative sur la procuration durable devenue en réalité en 2020. After starting out in a private practice, Jodi undertook various roles in her professional association with exposure to a variety of legal issues. In 2014, she returned to her roots in estate planning, starting with a mobile legal practice, preparing wills, powers of attorney, and healthcare directives. She participated in various professional activities with the Acadian Bar Association and the Law Society bar admission course and was a member of New Brunswick Power of Attorney Group, interdisciplinary group of professionals who successfully advocated for the new enduring power of attorney legislation which came into force in 2020. And moving forward, we're going to present Dr. Ludivine Witkowski. Professeur Ludivine Witkowski est une neurologue, clinicienne rechercheuse et une professeure associée. Après sa formation médicale en France, elle est arrivée à Moncton, ça fait 6 ans. où elle a développé la clinique MAPR, une clinique spécialisée dans les troubles de mémoire précoce ou atypiques. Elle a conduit également plusieurs protocoles de recherche dans le domaine de la sclérose en plaques et la maladie d'Alzheimer, mais aussi sur les troubles neurologiques en lien avec le syndrome de COVID long. Elle consacre son temps libre à ses jeunes enfants et à voyager. Dr. Ludivine Witkowski is a neurologist, a clinical researcher, and an associate professor. After completing her medical training in France, she came to Moncton 6 years ago, where she developed the AYMR clinic, a clinic specialized in early and atypical memory disorder. She leads several research protocols in the field of multiple sclerosis and Alzheimer's disease, as well as neurological condition related to long COVID. She spends her free time with her children and also traveling. And the last but not least, Lilli Juling. She is, elle est une ergothérapeute qui travaille dans une unité d'évaluation gériatrique à l'hôpital de Saint-Joseph à Saint-Jean. Avec son équipe interdisciplinaire, elle travaille avec les clients et leurs familles, souvent au moment où ils reçoivent un diagnostic avec un trouble de neurocognition. Lilli est une bénévole auprès de la Société d'Alzheimer depuis 10 ans. Elle est actuellement co-présidente d'un réseau national de pratiques d'ergothérapeutes travaillant dans le domaine des soins aux personnes atteintes d'un trouble neurocognitif. Et elle est également présidente de l'Association des ergothérapeutes du Nouveau-Brunswick. Lilli Juling is an occupational therapist who works in a geriatric assessment, a unit at the St. Joseph Hospital in St. John. She and her interdisciplinary team works with clients and their family, oftentimes after they receive their diagnosis with dementia. Lilli has volunteered with the Alzheimer's Society over 10 years and is currently the co-chair of the National Practice Network of Occupational Therapists Working in Dementia Care. And she is also the president of the New Brunswick Association of Occupational Therapists. So, big applause to our amazing guests that are willing to provide their time to answer a few questions from our clients and staff members. Donc, remercions grandement à nos invités qui ont pris le temps pour répondre à des questions aujourd'hui qu'on a reçues de nos clients et de nos membres de l'équipe. Donc, merci. Thank you so much. So we'll move forward with the discussion panel. So please feel free, if you have an answer to these questions, just answer. And hopefully we can have a discussion with one another as well. Donc, on va passer à notre panel de discussion. Puis, s'il vous plaît, répondez à les questions que vous vous sentez confortable et j'espère qu'on peut avoir une discussion ensemble. Donc, first question that we received in English was, what do you think is the first step should be taken after receiving a diagnosis of dementia?
I'll start.
Okay.
I think the most important thing, and I asked my team, what would be the first thing? And we all said the same thing. One was take time to let it sink in. And then talk to your family and close friends, because sometimes we feel that it is quite a personal diagnosis, but I think it's really important to share that with your close family and friends, because you really need them to be a part of your journey. And the other thing is to educate yourself. And there's so many things out there, but our number one recommendation is really to go to the Alzheimer's Society and the First Link program. And I'm not just saying it because of you, parce que tu es la coordinatrice, mais parce que c'est un très bon program. Because often when a family receives their diagnosis, it can be so overwhelming. It's a time of, what do we do now? Where do we go from here? Do we have to make some big decisions? And what I love about First Link is that they give you the time and then they reach out to you. So it's not like you have to do all these things. They reach out to you and then they let you know what support is available and what education is available. So I think that's the most important thing.
Well, thank you.
J'aimerais ajouter que je pense que c'est important d'avoir un vrai diagnostic. Il y a trop de patients qui se retrouvent avec dementia, démence. Finalement, on ne sait pas vraiment ce que c'est leur maladie. Démence, c'est pas une maladie, c'est un groupe de maladies qui peut avoir beaucoup de causes différentes. Il y a certaines de ces causes qui sont curables. Il y en a d'autres pour lesquelles il n'y a pas de traitement. Il y en a pour lesquelles il y a des recherches spéciales à faire. Il y en a pour lesquelles il y a des tests à faire. Donc, à l'heure actuelle, c'est vraiment plus un mot qui devrait se rencontrer. On devrait parler de maladie d'Alzheimer, de dégénérescence frontotemporale, de maladie à corps de Lévy, etc. On devrait parler d'un diagnostic vraiment précis. Et je crois que la première chose à faire, c'est déjà de demander un avis spécialisé, de demander s'il y a un traitement spécifique à cette maladie, et puis d'avoir une prise en charge vraiment ciblée sur la personne. C'est ce qu'on devrait tous faire et c'est ce qu'on fait dans tous les centres spécialisés. Donc, je pense vraiment que ça, c'est important. La deuxième étape, c'est surtout de ne pas s'isoler. Je vois vraiment trop de patients qui ont tendance à avoir honte, à avoir peur de dire une bêtise, d'avoir une maladresse ou quoi que ce soit, et qui se retrouvent sur leur canapé, devant la télévision, toute la journée, et complètement isolés du monde. C'est le pire de ce qu'ils peuvent faire pour garder leur cerveau en santé. Donc, je pense vraiment qu'il faut continuer à s'ouvrir, à discuter, avoir du contact social et puis essayer d'avoir un traitement ciblé au maximum.
I think what you're saying is so important, très important. One of the biggest questions that I receive is what's the difference between dementia and Alzheimer's, or what is dementia? And we need to really work on what is dementia. It's a group of disorders, like you said, that have multiple causes. Some are treatable, some are not. What is common is usually it's related to memory loss and communication abilities and all of that. But yeah, like what type of dementia? Do you have Alzheimer's, Lewy body, or frontal lobe dementia? I'm just paraphrasing what you're saying, but that's very important. Yeah. I see that, Jodi, you had something to say.
So my usual contact is a little bit later than all of your contact. And it usually comes about because somebody has a diagnosis and has been given the proverbial suggestion that they get their legal affairs in order. And my reaction to that, of course, is that my advice to everyone is that everyone of the age of 19 or older, and every adult should have already done a lot of the things that people leave until this difficult time. So my list is, okay, well, let's move along with that. But there's a lot of misconceptions about dementia, about Alzheimer's. And I think the education part of knowing exactly what it involves for them is so important. And for me, my question when somebody has never done any kind of estate planning is that they're worried it's too late, that they no longer have the capacity to make the documents. And so we have to do a fair bit of education about what does capacity mean in terms of making legal documents. And it is very different depending upon the kind of document they're doing. So I usually say it's not too late. Do not worry that this is going to be problematic. but you do have to start now, and you need to take the time that it takes and take the care that it takes to do it correctly, rather than rushing through something and then having outcomes that are unsatisfactory in the long term. But we have an opportunity to have usually a very good conversation about enduring powers of attorney and how to ensure that they're not misused, and how you want your attorney to make decisions for you. And then with the will, if they don't already have those made, what changes or what things they'd like to put in there, knowing that, it may still be some significant period of time before that has to be, used. So that's where I come in.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. First question done. We're doing great. Prochaine question. Quel programme et service existe et que pas trop de personnes connaissent? Any recommendation on programs and services that some people may not know of? A little shout out, let's say.
Je peux peut-être commencer. Alors, en fait, au départ, on pense qu'il n'y a rien. On croit vraiment qu'il n'y a rien. Et finalement, il existe beaucoup, beaucoup de choses au Nouveau-Brunswick. Et récemment, il y a un nouveau programme qui s'appelle Naviguer la démence, qui peut aider à mieux comprendre qu'est-ce qu'il existe, pour qui, combien ça coûte, où c'est. Enfin, voilà, à faire un peu du lien, à cibler quels sont les besoins des personnes et puis à leur apporter. Il y a un autre programme qui s'appelle Point d'entrée unique, qui peut aussi aider à ça, qui est plutôt en lien avec Vitalité. J'ai beaucoup de familles qui sont inquiètes, surtout s'il m'arrive quelque chose, comment je fais avec mon membre de la famille qui est atteint d'un trouble neurocognitif majeur. Il existe des lits de relève, donc des endroits où, je sais pas, l'aidant s'est cassé la jambe, il doit être hospitalisé une semaine ou ne peut plus subvenir aux besoins. Eh ben, il existe des lits de relève. Partout dans la province, il en existe. Généralement, c'est pas gratuit, mais c'est quelque chose qui peut vraiment aider. La Société d'Alzheimer peut vraiment aider aussi à organiser ça. Nous, dans notre clinique, on l'utilise quasiment tous les jours. Il y a des centres de jour pour adultes qui peuvent aussi prendre les personnes une journée par semaine ou 2 journées par semaine pour faire des activités. Pendant ce temps, l'aidant peut aller faire ses commissions, prendre un peu de temps pour lui-même, aller voir ses enfants ou ce dont ils ont besoin. Il y a beaucoup d'agences qui font du soutien à domicile aussi. Il y a des programmes de prêt d'équipement médical. Donc, des équipements qui peuvent servir pour la toilette, pour la douche, pour un lit médical. Ça, c'est en lien avec la Croix-Rouge. Pour vous dire, il y a vraiment beaucoup de choses. Il y a un autre lien qui s'appelle Soutien sociaux NB qui peut permettre aux personnes d'aller voir quel soutien financier, par exemple, ou sociaux ils peuvent avoir par rapport à leur maladie. Et on a aussi un essai clinique qu'on vient d'ouvrir dans ma clinique à Dumont. On va en ouvrir de plus en plus d'autres. Donc, il y a aussi accès à des nouveaux médicaments qui ne sont pas accessibles en dehors des essais cliniques. Donc, pour vous dire, il y a vraiment beaucoup, beaucoup de choses. C'est difficile de s'y retrouver là-dedans, mais la Société d'Alzheimer a des super programmes de formation, de liens. Et moi, je voudrais vous remercier parce que vous nous aidez beaucoup et on vous envoie beaucoup de monde.
Oui, merci beaucoup.
OK,
Oui.
Je peux parler les supports dont Ludivine parle. I actually had the same websites that you mentioned as well, so I thought I'll jump in right there and to save you that, Isabelle, the translating. Le soutien social NB.ca, so in English, that's social supports NB.ca, and that is the website that the Department of Social Development, so that's their principal website to access any services or any resources through social development. And that is really important because it's also the gateway to different programs. So if you're under 65, it's disability support program. If you're over 65, it's a long-term care program. And with the long-term care program, that's a way to access to see if you can get some support for everything from home care to, do we need to look at special care home or nursing home. So it is like the one sort of gatekeeper to all of those things, not just nursing homes. People think long-term care nursing homes, but no, it's just for all of those things that are available, or if there's funding for equipment, that sort of thing. You mentioned the Naviguer Demence NB. So there's Navigating Dementia NB.ca, which is also a really good resource as well too. And of course, I agree, Alzheimer's Society is our first go-to. But it's because you also have the most experience working with the families. There's all these supports out there, programs, and because it's so overwhelming, and you represent the clients and the families. So, and you offer the emotional support as well too. So when, when other families can get together and talk to each other and say, oh, I found this helpful. So instead of navigating a whole bunch of websites, you could talk to real people and talk to other people going through that. And I think you can't underestimate that. And like Ludivine also mentioned, there are things like respite beds, or, you do need to think about home care, or before. I always say, plan for the worst, hope for the best, right? Because when things change, you want to be prepared, because our system does not respond very quickly in a crisis. So the best thing is to have the supports and to know what options are there before you need them, right? Yeah.
So little less in terms of real support services in the legal area, although there are a number of organizations that provide really good printed and online resources to educate people about the basics of estate planning. I'm going to mention Public Legal Education and Information Service of New Brunswick, who have published some excellent booklets on enduring powers of attorney, as well as wills and probate and healthcare directives. And we're going to put the links to these, I think, up with the program. The Financial and Consumer Services Commission of New Brunswick, la Commission des services financiers et des services aux consommateurs, ont un site web pour les procurations, préparer sa retraite. Il y a un record keeper qui est un outil pour rassembler l'information pour une personne. There is the Government of Canada Seniors Forum, what every older Canadian should know about powers of attorney and joint accounts. The Canadian Federation for Economic Education, which has an excellent series of videos and booklets, which approach the whole area of enduring powers of attorney and wills and other financial aspects both from the viewpoint of a parent wanting to talk to children, as well as children wanting to raise the conversation with their parents. So it sort of is a nice approach to how to start that conversation. Two of the things that I actually wasn't talking about with my clients with Alzheimer's early enough is that, and although I do it with my families who have members with disabilities, is the importance of applying for the disability tax credit, le crédit d'impôt pour les personnes handicapées. And you need to start that off in advance, along with your other tax filings, so that it is there when you are able to use all of the benefits that it has for your particular situation. One other guide that we've been talking about recently in another group is the Plan Well Guide. And it is a decision aid for healthcare decision-making for both the person themselves, who can prepare a healthcare directive with it, but also for their caregivers and family to educate themselves, so that if there is some form of a sudden serious illness, that they're educated in advance of being hospitalized in terms of levels of medical care and what kinds of risks, benefits, and outcomes there are. Le site web, c'est en anglais et en français, mais il y a des brochures en français. Il y a vraiment un bon guide là pour les personnes. Et ils ont aussi fait un guide sur caregiving, all you need to know about caregiving, because Dr. Hayland has been caregiving for his family members for some period of time. So I thought it was quite nicely detailed.
Thank you so much. So I just wanted to add, if I can, that the Alzheimer's Society, all of these programs, we're pretty much aware of all of those programs that our guest has mentioned. And if you're not into the computer, you searching in the website and need help with that navigation, the Alzheimer's Society can help you with that. We can print out the list of home agencies, or maybe we can help you find the relief beds in nursing homes, or what adult day centers are in your city. Those kinds of things that sometimes on the website of what is it again? NB Social, I believe.
Social supports and
yes. Yes, sometimes it's for the whole province and it can be a lot of information. So if you need a little bit help to situate what's available in your region, we can definitely help with that and whatnot. And of course, just talking to a real person, kind of helping you, maybe giving the pros and cons on what works for your family, those kinds of things that we can help you with, and also refer to you to certain programs such as navigation, dementia navigators. We can refer you to them, those kinds of things that we can help with. And also, I also wanted to mention there's the long-term care program from social development that is for adults that are over 65 years old. But as we know, there's some people that are diagnosed with dementia that are younger, that are under 65 years old. So for programs for in-home care or adult day centers, those kinds of things, the program that you're going to look for is the Disability Support Program under social development. So I just wanted to give a little shout out for the young onset individuals. So we'll move forward to the next question. What tips would you give to someone living with dementia looking to stay active physically and mentally? Donc, qu'est-ce que vos recommandations pour quelqu'un qui aimerait rester actif physiquement et mentalement?
Easy. Do what you love. Because it's not always easy starting something new. And that's for everybody, regardless of our physical or mental ability. So if you've never been an exerciser, then it's not going to be something I'm going to start, right? And so try to think about the things that you love to do, that you enjoy doing, and start from there. And the other thing too, as an occupational therapist, I always say, that we need to think of all the things that we do to take care of ourselves. Those are all physical and cognitive activities, right? Everything from basic activities like bathing, dressing, to more complicated activities like making a meal or doing errands. Even going about in your kitchen, you're walking about, you're reaching, you're doing different things. And it's also a cognitive activity as well too. So, these are all forms of physical and mental activities that it's really important just to establish a regular routine. So how do we stay active? It's by having a routine. If we can have a routine, then it's something that we can maintain longer. And especially when you do the things that are important to you, then that you're more likely to continue it, right? And when things become, I always say, just because things become difficult, that doesn't mean you can't stop, right? That you just stop everything that you're doing. Think about ways to adapt or modify, or always keeping safety in mind. Is a microwave with one button start, is that better? And I don't like to encourage people to try to start all kinds of new things. I say start now, at any age. These are all good habits and things to do. And is there a way that maybe you can go to the bank with somebody? Is there a way that you can keep things physically more accessible? So I just think about the things that you already enjoy doing, and then think about ways to keep on doing those things. And, you know, I think it's really important to look for options in the community as well, or if socialization is often very important for you. The Alzheimer's Society has the Minds in Motion program, which I love. The physiotherapist I work with, she helped, Pam Wallace, she helped with starting that program here and in New Brunswick. And it combines movement with socialization, with a little bit of support and, you know, education that they don't realize that they're getting at the same time. So it's just a nice program. And there are other programs out there, but I wanted to draw attention to that one. There is a new one through the Red Cross, connectionnb.redcross.ca. And that one is specifically to target seniors that are more at risk of being socially isolated. And so they're trying to connect one-on-one, which I think is also needed because, you know, like you said, it's more than just things on the internet, right? It's that actual connection. So yeah, there's always, there's many ways to continue to stay active, but it's just how we frame it or how we think about it, right?
With my mother-in-law who had aging dementia, she was a great card player, bridge player, puzzle maker, and we kept those up as much as we could, but some things we changed how we approached it. So, you know, we changed the size of the puzzles that we used. They switched some from bridge and cards to having these riotous Scrabble parties sort of on a Sunday afternoon that friends and family would come to, that, you know, showcased to some extent my mother-in-law's facility with language and social skills that she could still keep up for quite a long period of time. So I think being adaptable and trying new things and seeing what works, that is the real key. You're right, Lilli.
Moi, je peux vous dire aussi ce que je conseille à mes patients en général pour rester actifs. Donc déjà de faire de l'activité physique, quelque chose qu'ils aiment. Et le mieux, c'est pas tout seul, si c'est possible, de le faire dans un environnement social pour aussi partager, discuter, passer un moment de plaisir. Au moins 30 minutes, 3 fois par semaine, ce serait vraiment bien. L'activité physique, ça fait du bien aux muscles et au corps, c'est sûr, mais ça permet aussi de mieux irriguer le cerveau, d'éliminer les toxines. Et si c'est fait en même temps qu'une activité cognitive, ça renforce certaines structures aussi. Donc, c'est vraiment important. Aussi, faire attention aux facteurs de risque cardiovasculaire qui sont très importants au Nouveau-Brunswick, comme l'hypertension artérielle, le tabagisme, le diabète, la prise de mauvaise alimentation. Toutes ces choses-là, il faut vraiment les corriger. Ça a été démontré dans des études. C'est pas juste bon pour votre cœur de ne pas fumer ou de ne pas manger gras et salé. C'est aussi extrêmement bon pour le cerveau. Donc, manger plus de légumes, manger plus sainement, faire de l'activité physique, arrêter de fumer, diminuer la consommation d'alcool, corriger le diabète, corriger la haute pression, tout ça c'est extrêmement important pour le cerveau et ça permet d'avoir une meilleure évolution des troubles cognitifs. Et puis tous les exercices d'entraînement cérébral dont vous avez parlé, c'est vraiment intéressant. Alors effectivement, il faut que ça reste dans du plaisir parce que les personnes sont déjà malades, sont déjà suffisamment punis pour ça. On ne va pas leur rajouter en plus des exercices scolaires à faire à la maison tous les jours. Mais dans les magasins de jouets, il y a des rayons pour adultes et les vendeurs connaissent ça bien. Donc, moi, j'y suis allée juste pour demander. Il y a plein de choses qui sont disponibles dans les magasins de jouets avec des jeux pour adultes qui peuvent être intéressants. Il y a des puzzles, des mots croisés, des mots fléchés, des sudoku. Il y a aussi des programmes qu'on peut faire sur tablette pour les gens qui aiment, qui ont un bon contact avec l'informatique. Il y a des programmes, il y en a un que je conseille qui s'appelle Cognifit, C-O-G-N-I-F-I-T, et qui propose des petits jeux qui vont s'adapter au niveau de la personne et qui vont les pousser à s'améliorer petit à petit, tout en ayant un certain focus sur les zones spéciales à réentraîner. Par exemple, quelqu'un qui va plutôt avoir un problème frontal, ça va plutôt entraîner sa concentration ou l'exercice en double tâche. Pour d'autres personnes, ça va être plutôt la mémoire. Donc ça, c'est vraiment un programme qui n'est pas gratuit malheureusement, mais qui peut vraiment être intéressant pour les personnes. Et surtout, ne pas s'isoler.
Mhm.
As you said, Ludivine, we always say what's good for the heart is good for the brain. So all the things that you said about, having a healthy diet, the physical activity, treating all the conditions that are good for your, that affect your cardiovascular health. Those are all very, very important, like you said. And, for me, who doesn't like to exercise, these are the things that we have to all try to do right now, right? We don't wait till we're older and, we got to do it right now. Right? From a young age. It's good for everybody. It's not just, yeah.
And if I could add, je suggère tout le monde de regarder le site web de votre ville ou village pour voir c'est quoi les programmes qui est offert dans votre village. Vous payez les taxes, regardez ce qui est offert dans votre propre ville. Ça se peut qu'il y a des danses, ça se peut qu'il y a déjà des bingos, ça se peut qu'il y a différentes choses. Il y a aussi les Lions Club qui est vraiment bon, qui a des vraiment bons programmes habituellement gratuits. Donc, juste regardez ce qui est déjà disponible dans votre région, puis essayer de prendre avantage de ces services-là. Donc, on va passer à les questions et réponses, the Q&A portion that we're going to pass. So, first question is, what plans should a person living with dementia make now to prepare for the time when they may be less engaged in making decisions?
I'm happy to start. This comes from an article from actually a financial background, but it talked about a circumstance where, the documents were in place, but the maker of the documents hadn't really had discussions with her family, and family dynamics had changed since that period of time, and a bit of a conflict or dispute broke out, and what could have been done differently. So, their advice, I thought, was quite apt in the circumstances, but you should have detailed discussions with your incapacity attorney about the sources of income that you have, what your assets are, how do you fund any costs of long-term care. What are the options for alternate care plans? What if there aren't sufficient funds? How is that going to work? What are your preferences for your investment and financial management? So, who is there a specific advisor that you've worked with? How do you manage it? What kind of discussions do you have about the income you need versus long-term growth, all of those objectives that you may have, where all your relevant financial accounts and documents are, both digital and paper, your wills, powers of attorney, all estate planning documents, insurance policies, real property information, contact for all of those advisors. And and there are inventories and readily accessible kinds of fillable PDF documents that we should all be doing to record this kind of information in advance now and then keep up to date. But in terms of the attorney for personal care, and that actually was the dispute that broke out because one child was in favor of a different treatment program than another child, and they'd never really talked about this. But you should be having conversations about not only healthcare, but also where you want to live, shelter, the clothing, your personal hygiene, your nutrition, your recreational activities, support workers. And that's a hard one to have because no one ever wants to, accept that kind of care. But the sooner you start, introducing it and having those, talking about what kinds of things are important to you, it will ease the way in the long run. If there is one child or another that's going to be doing a significant portion of the personal or property care, then you need to have a discussion in advance about, is there compensation for this? Don't leave it all until there is some sort of testamentary fight over, well, I was supposed to be paid out of the estate, or there are no arrangements being made for that, because it can be a very significant amount of time and effort that goes into caring for a person. But your living arrangements, who's responsible for day-to-day care, who travels with you and to and from doctor's appointments, are there notes being taken? Does that person need to be authorized to discuss those things with your physician? Who's, it's the practical things of daily life, who gets groceries and medications and sort of passes the information on from the pharmacist to the person who is dealing with those things, the kinds of meals and visiting. And I mean, it's a tough kind of discussion, but your end of life wishes. So, who and where and how and what do you want, and knowing that we can't control everything, but having some of these conversations, and they can be facilitated by other people or through questionnaires or information online, but it will save a lot of family grief at really, really tough times in really tough places if you know in advance, what some of the parameters are that you might have to talk about. So that's kind of that's pretty much my list. I'm interested in hearing.
Mm-hmm. I think, just to quickly add to that, is that we encouraged people to write a life story, and that's where they can document, the things that are really important to them. And it could be everything like things that I like to the dislike. It could be foods, it could be music, that sort of thing, because it's just nice to have those conversations with your family and for yourself. And so that way you're prepared as through the course of the dementia journey. Yeah, I think those are really helpful things.
Something that could be discussed too at the early stage could be the MAID, the medical assistance in dying. It's a process that is not for everybody, for sure, but that could be discussed at an early stage, just to know if the patient wants that or not, and when, and if it's possible in that case or not. It could be not possible for everybody, but I think it's just a purpose that should be access.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like I said before, have a plan A and have a plan B, mm-hmm. even for all your daily routines, thinking about things in advance. How are you going to get errands done? How are you going to get banking done? How about driving? It's better to make a plan while you have choices and options mm-hmm. than when it's to the point that you can't participate in those decisions, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Informed decisions, which is amazing.
Definitely.
Next question. Qu'est-ce qu'une personne vivant avec un trouble neurocognitif ou un membre de la famille peut faire pour préparer avec une visite avec un fournisseur de santé ou de soins ou un avocat concernant la progression de leur maladie? What can they prepare?
Alors, je vais parler pour le fournisseur de soins et pas pour l'avocat. C'est vrai que moi, j'aime que mes patients viennent avec quelqu'un qui les connaisse bien, qui connaisse bien comment ça se passe à la maison, qu'on puisse me dire, par exemple, ce qu'il est toujours capable de faire, ce qu'il prend du plaisir à faire, ce qui a changé, comment le sommeil se passe, comment le moral se passe, est-ce que les personnes sont déprimées ou pas, quelles sont les habiletés qu'ils ont, quelles sont les choses qu'ils font plus par rapport à la dernière fois, plutôt l'évolution comme ça. Et puis aussi s'il y a des nouveaux symptômes comme des hallucinations, de l'agressivité, des choses pour lesquelles il existe des traitements et qu'on peut vraiment aider. Donc ça pour moi c'est vraiment essentiel.
Yeah, very important to have that collateral, somebody that you trust, somebody that knows you well, that can be able to talk about your abilities now and what it was before. Because sometimes when I see somebody, I see them now. And I said, well, if they were never a cook, how, if they're a terrible cook now, I don't know that that's different from before. So it's important to have that collateral and to talk about, any issues with agitation or aggression, like you were saying, because that collateral can be so invaluable to the health professionals.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Pour préparer avec un avocat ou une avocate, c'est vraiment important de rassembler et examiner tous les documents relatifs à votre patrimoine. Prepare une liste il y a des listes de vérification disponibles pour la préparation d'un testament. C'est à peu près la même chose pour les procurations. Donc, commencez avec ça et ça va plus vite avec un avocat parce qu'on demande beaucoup de questions. Quelle propriété, quelle banque, quel compte de banque, est-ce qu'il y a des investissements, est-ce que vous avez nommé des bénéficiaires? Il y a beaucoup de détails dans la planification dans ce domaine. So gather and review all documents related to your estate assets. There are checklists for making wills, which are useful for making powers of attorney as well. You want really a biographical history of the family as well, of the person, as well as their assets and how they own them and who have they named as beneficiaries and who has what rights and will be expecting various things. So it's all about, it really starts with the information. And then if you use the booklets that talk about what an enduring power of attorney can do or not do, as well as wills and probate, you'll have a far more detailed and effective discussion about making them. And that also helps the lawyer in ensuring that matters around avoiding the misuse of those documents can be dealt with at an early stage.
Thank you. And also, if I can add, we have a toolkit for getting a diagnosis, and in that toolkit, there's some questions that help you prepare for your next visit with the doctor to share your concerns about a probable diagnosis. So that's bilingual, français en anglais. Juste pour te préparer pour cette visite-là, qu'est-ce que tu devrais discuter avec le docteur? Qu'est-ce que tu as remarqué avec la personne atteinte de la maladie ou potentielle atteinte de la maladie? Donc, contactez-nous si vous avez besoin de cet outil. Prochaine question. For Dr. Witkowski, is a thermographic scan any use as a tool in the process of getting a diagnosis with Alzheimer's?
Alors non, c'est pas utile une thermographie. Une thermographie, ça permet d'avoir un reflet indirect de la perfusion sanguine. Donc ça peut être utile pour des parties qui sont plus superficielles, comme par exemple rechercher un cancer du sein, rechercher des choses comme ça. Par contre, on a des examens qui sont un peu l'équivalent. On utilise au Nouveau-Brunswick le SPECT CT scan. On est en train de se battre pour avoir de disponible PET scan, c'est un autre genre d'examen. Et ça va donner un reflet du métabolisme cérébral. Et ça, c'est très utile au moment du diagnostic pour savoir si c'est une vraie maladie d'Alzheimer, si c'est une maladie cousine à la maladie d'Alzheimer. Donc, c'est d'autres examens qui ressemblent un petit peu, qui sont aussi très colorés comme ça, hein, comme la thermographie, qu'on utilise déjà pour le diagnostic, pas vraiment pour le suivi, juste pour faire le diagnostic.
Parfait. Merci. Next question for Lilli. As an Alzheimer patient, walking gets incredibly sorry, I will restart. For Lilli, as Alzheimer patients, walking gets increasingly feeble. Would it be wise to try activator poles instead of walker to try to retain some muscle? Sorry, it's cut. My question is cut a bit. Some
muscle
muscle
tone.
tone. Yes, thank you. For as long as possible.
Okay, well, so for the best answer, I consulted the physiotherapist, Pam Wallace, on my team, because first and foremost, the most important thing is to know that each individual is different. And so ultimately, you should probably consult a physiotherapist that has experience working with older adults. But in general, I got some general information. The second most important thing is that there's a misconception that using a gait aid decreases your strength. And it doesn't. Gait aids help you to keep your balance. And so if you are able to keep your balance, then it's going to keep you being able to move, continue to move or continue to walk, but in a safe way. So consider somebody who's very unsteady, trying to walk, thinking, oh, I'm going to keep on trying to walk and I don't need that four-wheeled walker, versus somebody with a four-wheel walker going, oh, this makes me feel more secure and it helps me keep my balance. They could walk just as far and just as long, right? So we need to get over the fact that there's a stigma with using a gait aid. So just like with a number of things. So it is actually a tool that can help your mobility and can keep you strong and keep on continuing to work in a safe way, continuing to walk in a safe way. When it comes specifically to activator poles, the physiotherapist said that really depends on the person. If you're an active outdoor person, you like to walk on uneven terrain, or you are already using hiking poles, then it's a great option because then you're used to using it, or it would be appropriate for those situations. But if you're not using them, it's sometimes hard to use correctly or to learn how to use correctly. So it really, really depends. And sometimes even as a dementia progresses, so just to be aware that sometimes it becomes more difficult to learn new things. And also the ability to dual task, to do two things at once, also becomes more challenging. So sometimes gait aids, especially as the dementia progresses to later stages, gait aids like walkers and canes and things like that actually become a hindrance and can increase. There's evidence to show that it can increase falls risk as well. So not saying it's not an all or nothing. It really depends. But the most important thing is to get the proper advice for that person. And also, if a gait aid is prescribed, it really is to help you keep being strong and mobile as best, as safe as possible for as long as possible. So I hope that's helpful. So it depends.
Very helpful. All of you guys, very helpful. Vous avez aidé grandement les gens. We never have all the answers. This is just a few steps towards your journey with dementia, and you can contact the Alzheimer's Society if you have any other questions and whatnot. On n'a pas toutes les réponses ici, c'est certain. C'est une discussion qui est quand même courte. Mais si que vous avez d'autres questions, préoccupations, contactez la Société d'Alzheimer. So I want to thank everyone for watching. We hope that this event has helped you learn more about getting support on your journey with dementia. Merci à tous d'avoir regardé cet événement. Nous espérons que cet événement vous a aidé à savoir plus sur l'obtention de soutien dans votre parcours avec un trouble neurocognitif. A big thank you to our special guests, Dr. Ludivine Witkowski, Lilli Lin, Jodi Lee White, for joining us and taking the time to answer all these questions. Merci, un grand merci à nos invités spéciaux, Dr. Ludivine Witkowski, Lilli Lin et Jodi Lee White, de nous joindre aujourd'hui. Once again, if we didn't get to your questions today, or you have more questions, please contact the Alzheimer's Society at our toll-free number 1-800-664-8411, or email us at info@alzheimer.nb.ca. Si on n'a pas répondu à votre question aujourd'hui ou vous avez d'autres questions, encore une fois, veuillez nous contacter à la Société d'Alzheimer du Nouveau-Brunswick à notre numéro sans frais, le 1-800-664-8411 ou envoyez-nous un courriel à info@commercial-alzheimernb.ca. Merci beaucoup. Bye!